Hey, it's Jack with Concrete Leveling Pros. Today we are headed to meet with somebody who called us about their pool deck. They're saying that there are some voids, some soil erosion going on underneath the pool deck. So we are going to go meet with this client. We're going to drill some 3/8" holes in his pool deck, see what's going on underneath, see if there are any voids, how deep those voids are, and how much polyurethane foam we need to pump underneath. Ronnie and I are going to head out there. Ronnie is going to explain how we find voids, how we kind of penetrate the pool deck and see how big the voids are, how much foam it would need, etc. So we're gonna head out there. Let's go.
In between these two, I'm just gonna do this for. So here I am drilling 3/8 holes into the concrete slab, the swimming pool deck. This is to test the voids below the pool deck, which we can't see in any other way. It's a much cheaper and more effective way than ground penetrating radar, which is really expensive. This way, it's very practical, it's easy. I get a very good result from that. The other thing is I can test the density as well once I start probing it. I will be drilling holes throughout sort of 6 foot, 8 foot sections separated from each other. This is just to give me an indication where the voids are and the depth of the voids. These holes that we drill, we actually use at 3/8 holes. We use these same holes for the grout needle. The grout needle at the end of the machine that pumps the foam underneath, the grout needle fits in these holes. So even though I'm drilling holes now just for testing, we will be using those holes as well. However, when we actually go to do the job, we'll be drilling holes much closer to each other just to ensure that we get material filling up the whole section below the pool deck, supporting it, raising it, and compacting the soil, and also filling any void. As you can see, I'm drilling pretty close to the edge of the pool deck because I don't want to go too close to the pool wall itself. We don't want any lifting on that side, so we'll be pumping our foam on the edge of the pool deck, and that's also where the majority of the void is below that. You can see right next to me or behind me that the pavers have also sunk, but the pavers, which is laid on top of regular soil, which we cannot do anything about. They need a tiling company or a paving company to come in and reset those once we fill the void underneath the concrete slab. All right, same thing. We'll just drop it in. Ooh. That's something hard under there. Your pump's on. Good, we haven't hit a water pipe. That's something, I don't know what that is, but we're not going to drill further than that. Oh, there's something hard too. That's not a pipe then. I think there was another, there's something else, some other concrete below it. See? That's harder. Look at the void that you've got.
You said this
See
one
that?
went all the way back in.
Okay. So that might be something different, you know, over that area there. I don't know. So there's concrete below that. But this is hard. It's not hard like concrete, but it's compact underneath there. So by using the probe that I just drop into the hole, when I'm drilling the hole, I only drill through the concrete slab. I don't ream the drill down into the soil below. That gives me a very good indication. I measure the thickness of the slab. In this case, it was 4 inches thick. If I just drop that probe in there and it drops freely, I pull it out, I can measure the difference between the thickness of the concrete slab and where the actual probe stopped. That gives me an indication of the size of the void because there's no pressure being put on the probe, which gives me a free falling indication of the void below it. This gives me a very fair idea all along the pool deck of how much void needs to be filled. I work it out on a square footage and then multiply that by the expansion of the material, knowing how much material I then use. However, once I've taken that probe and it's dropped down to the soil level, I then put some pressure on it, and that gives me a very fair indication of how much the soil needs to be compressed. Very often with washouts, you'll have soil below that that's not very compact. So I've got to add in a certain percentage of material that'll help compact that soil, push down on the soil so much so that it can then either lift or just support that concrete slab. There's not much of a void, not as big as the others, but this is softer as well. See that? So you need a bunch of compacting done underneath there. See this area too, because you got that lower area so close, so it's very probable to have quite a bit of erosion taking place there. Not much of a void, but it's soft. There it's hard down there. So there's a bunch of compaction needed there. Same thing. Not much void. As I'm walking around the pool deck, checking all the holes that I drilled, I can note that there are areas where the soil below the concrete slab is still very compact, very hard. So that's a good indication that there's soil erosion, but the soil below that doesn't need much remediation. In other words, we don't need to compact that soil that much. So I'll walk all around the pool, go to all the holes that I've drilled, test them all, note them down, and then being able to do my calculations on how much material we need to lift, stabilize, and fill any voids in this pool deck. I really encourage the homeowners to walk around with me while I'm doing testing. It gives me the opportunity to explain to them exactly what I do. They can see that they have a problem. They can then see, mostly people know they got a problem because the pool deck has moved, but they don't understand everything that's going on below the concrete. So I explain to them exactly what's going on. They can see the soil soft. They can see there's a void. They understand my process and why I'm doing the testing I do and why they need my services to get some foam under there, compact the soil, fill any voids, and then raise the concrete slab and keeping it to where it should be. A little bit of compaction. That's hard there. So that's good. So this area is good. Obviously your pavers need to be, see then you got no concrete below that. So I can't do anything about the pavers because it's got no concrete below it. I'm gonna have to get a paving company in. So when it comes to pavers that have been laid on top of dirt, the dirt's normally compacted, the pavers are put on top of it, but there's no solid substrate below the pavers. When you have a lot of soil erosion below that, your pavers will move, it'll erode the soil below the pavers, but I cannot pump foam underneath that because the foam will blow it up and it'll actually bulge the pavers. So unfortunately, when it comes to something like this, the pavers need to be removed, new soil run in, compacted, and the pavers reset. However, very often on pool decks especially, paving companies will put very thin tiling or pavers on top of the concrete. If the concrete then sinks, we can remove some of those pavers, get our grout needle into the concrete, and then still pump foam underneath the concrete slab, which will then raise the concrete slab and the pavers at the same time. But unfortunately, if it's just pavers put on dirt, there's nothing we can do about that. That's a paving company that needs to sort that out. And again, you know, you got this area down here, which any water that comes down here is washing down, going between your pavers and slowly eroding that soil below your pavers away. All right. I think that's why your pool deck looks so good still, despite the voids, because this thing was poured so thick. Yeah. It's like 8 inches in some sections, so that's good. And you know, the rest of this doesn't look bad. So as you can see on this video with this guy's pool deck, he's actually caught it just in time. The problem is most people don't, because they don't realize that they have a void or they have soil erosion or soil compaction until their pool deck cracks. Fortunately for this customer, he realized he had a void because his pavers were moving. So now we can get in there, stabilize the soil, fill any voids, and support that concrete deck so that it does not crack. And he's saving himself a lot of time and trouble. His pool deck looks great. It will continue looking great once we've supported it. Most people have a problem, They only realize this once it's cracked and broken. We can still lift it up, we can still get it up, but we can't really do much for the cracks. We can do crack sealing and crack repairs, but once you've got a crack in your concrete, we can't take that away. So prevention is definitely better than cure in this situation. Being so close to water, you must understand that anything close to water like this, where you've got seawalls or retainer walls, there's always a lot of erosion taking place. This customer fortunately has a good seawall, but there still is erosion because his pool deck is a lot higher than his actual seawall. Whenever you've got a seawall nearby or a lake or a pond or something, you've always got soil migrating away from your home, from your pool deck, your driveway, your walkways, and it's always going to be migrating towards a lower point, which will be the water level, which whether it's ocean driven or tide driven or just a pond, it's very normal to have a lot of soil erosion around that. Now, the material we use is completely compatible with potable water. I know it's a mouthful, but meaning we use this around fish ponds, lakes, sea walls. It all follows ISO standards for safe water usage. So this material we use is fantastic. It does not break down and leach any chemicals into the water. As a matter of fact, this material gets used a lot in the marine industry and seawalls and has passed all ISO standards for the use around water. You got a little bit of sinking here, but not much on the front there. It's mainly just around the pool. So if you get a paving company in, let them tear out like 3 feet around that, put new soil in once we put the foam in, let them recompact. Yeah. And seal it, and then you're good to go again. So that's how we find voids underneath swimming pool decks, carports, house foundations, anything with concrete on. If you think you've got a void underneath, if you've got concrete sinking, settling, give us a call. Now you know the process. We'll drill a couple of holes. We'll probe around. We can figure out what the voids are. We can figure out if you've got soil compaction issues. But give us a call if you've got any sinking issues, and we'll come and sort it out for you.
All right, so we just got back from the job. I hope that video was helpful on how we find voids, assess problems with pool decks, and how we can fix those problems with polyurethane foam. If you guys found the video helpful, if you thought it was good information, like, comment, subscribe, drop comments down below for any questions that you have, and we would be more than happy to answer those. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you guys next time.